Every winter, 42-ton trucks barrel across 500 kilometers of frozen lakes in the Canadian Arctic, traveling a highway so dangerous it has to be rebuilt from nothing each year, and so critical that billion-dollar diamond mines go dark without it. But before this impossible road existed, supplies crawled at 2 kilometers per hour on machines that took weeks to cross the same tundra. The men who changed that had no radar, no satellites, no safety protocols. They had nerve, and the first time a loaded truck rolled onto a frozen lake, nobody knew if the ice would hold. Before the first truck ever risked a frozen lake, the North depended on a different kind of machine, the cat train. These were convoys of Caterpillar tractors chained to sleds, crawling over the tundra at barely walking speed. 1.5 kilometers per hour, sometimes less, was all they could manage across the endless white. The journey from the railhead at Grimshaw to the mines near Great Slave Lake could stretch for 3 weeks, with no guarantee of arrival. Every load, fuel, dynamite, food, spare parts had to be calculated down to the last kilogram, because a single breakdown could leave a crew stranded in -40 degrees, far from any help. The tractors themselves were monsters, belching diesel, their treads chewing through snowdrifts that could swallow a man. Each cat train might haul 100 tons, but the real enemy was time. Snowstorms could stop a convoy for days. Spring thaw turned muskeg into a trap, swallowing sleds whole. Crews slept on their cargo, wrapped in canvas tents, listening for the groan of ice beneath them. There were no radios, no rescue flights, just a line of men and machines, inching north while the world around them stayed silent and cold. The cost was staggering. Fuel burned faster than cargo moved. A single round trip could eat up half a season, and the window closed quickly. If the ice broke early, supplies never arrived. Mines shut down. Hundreds of jobs and millions in ore hung on the slow progress of these steel caterpillars. For the men running cat trains, every haul was a gamble against the elements, with the odds growing worse each year as demand outpaced what the old machines could deliver. The North was hungry for a new solution, but nobody could say what would come next. Al Hamilton was not the sort of man who waited for permission. In the winter of 1956, with the mines starving for supplies and the old cat trains falling behind, he gambled everything on a new idea: a winter road for trucks, not tractors. The plan called for clearing a 300-kilometer track from Yellowknife to the western edge of Great Slave Lake, straight across frozen muskeg, snow-choked forest, and stretches of ice that could swallow a machine whole. Most said it couldn't be done. The risk was obvious. If the ice gave way, a truck and its cargo would vanish in seconds. If a blizzard closed in, there would be no rescue. But Hamilton had seen enough men and money lost to the slow crawl of the cat trains. He believed that with the right equipment and the nerve to push through, a truck could make the run in a single day. His fleet rolled out before dawn. International Harvester 210 trucks fitted with chains and reinforced frames, engines growling in the -40 dark. Crews worked ahead, clearing drifts with surplus military bulldozers, laying down timber where the ice looked thin. Every kilometer, someone measured the thickness with an auger and a steel tape. Progress was slow at first, but as the sun crept higher, the trucks picked up speed, 10 kilometers per hour, then 20, then 30 kilometers per hour. By nightfall, Hamilton's lead truck reached the far shore. The journey that once took 3 weeks by cat train was now measured in hours. Word spread fast. The impossible had been done. For the first time, the North glimpsed a future where the mines could be supplied in days, not months. Hamilton's gamble had paid off, and the race for a true ice highway was on. John Denison stood at the edge of Lake Caribou in January 1960, staring out at a sheet of ice that stretched for miles. No road, no tracks, just frozen water and the weight of a mining industry waiting on the other side. The plan was almost unthinkable. Send heavy trucks straight across the lake, trusting the ice to hold. Denison's crew rolled out first with a battered Mack Super B, its tires chained and its frame braced for the unknown. Every kilometer, men stopped to drill holes and measure the thickness. No radar, no digital readouts, just a steel auger and a tape. The rule of thumb was simple: less than 30 inches, and you turned back. But the ice was never even. Some stretches rang like a drum, others groaned underfoot. Halfway across, disaster struck. A sharp crack split the silence, racing out from under the lead truck. The front axle dipped, and the men scrambled to unload timbers and planks, shoving them over the fissure to spread the weight. For an hour, they worked in -40, hands bare, breath freezing on their collars. Denison barked orders, hauling spruce logs from the sled and laying them like a bridge. The truck inched forward, tires hissing on the raw wood, until the ice held again. Only then did the crew breathe. That day, the lake became a highway. Denison's gamble wasn't just about brute force. It was about reading the ice, trusting instinct, and knowing when to push and when to wait. The memory of that crack haunted every crossing afterward. But the lesson was clear. With enough nerve and enough timber, you could drive a 40-ton truck across a frozen lake and live to tell the tale. On the ice, nothing moves until the numbers say it can. Before the first truck engine even turns over, the ritual begins. A sled-mounted ground-penetrating radar, pulled by a tracked vehicle, glides over the white expanse, humming quietly in -40 degrees air. Every single meter of the 495-kilometer route is scanned and logged. The radar pulses through the ice, bouncing signals down to water and back, measuring thickness with a precision that leaves no room for guesswork. The data flows into a laptop in real time, each blip on the screen translating to centimeters of ice. No more drilling holes and hoping for the best. The rule is absolute: 107 centimeters. Anything less, and the road remains closed, no matter how desperate the mines are for fuel or ammonium nitrate. The difference between 106 and 107 centimeters is the line between a safe crossing and a 40-ton rig vanishing beneath the surface. The engineer in charge, sometimes a veteran, who's spent decades reading winter, walks the line between caution and pressure. He studies the digital map, looking for blue zones where the ice is thin, red where it's strong. One weak patch can shut down the entire operation. When the numbers finally add up, the first truck is called forward, not a loaded semi, but a specially prepared lead vehicle, often a lightweight, amphibious carrier. It crawls out onto the ice, every movement slow and deliberate. The engineer rides ahead, eyes locked on the radar feed, ready to halt at the first sign of trouble. Only when the entire stretch meets the threshold does the gate open for the convoys behind. The frozen lakes, blank and silent all winter, are transformed into a measured highway, every meter certified, every risk calculated. What once depended on nerve and luck now rests on a string of hard-won numbers. But the weight of that decision still hangs heavy on the man who says, "Go." Every winter, the road is born again from nothing. As soon as the ice reaches the minimum thickness, crews move out in convoys, men in insulated coveralls, faces hidden behind frost-crusted masks, engines idling in the dark. Their job is simple on paper, but brutal in practice. Clear more than 200,000 cubic meters of snow from the lakes and portages, scraping down to bare ice with massive graders and bulldozers. Snow acts as an insulator, trapping warmth and slowing the growth of ice beneath. Clearing it away lets the Arctic cold bite deeper, thickening the ice by as much as 30 centimeters in a matter of days. The work is relentless and precise. Operators steer their machines in tight formation, overlapping passes to leave not a trace of snow behind. Any missed patch could mean a weak spot, a hidden danger for the trucks that will follow. Where the ice is still too thin, laborers haul out fascine mats, bundles of brush and timber lashed together to spread the weight of the heavy equipment, a technique borrowed from the earliest days of road building. On sections that need reinforcement, crews flood the surface with water, letting it freeze in layers, each new sheet adding strength. The process runs day and night for up to 10 days, with teams rotating in shifts to keep the build moving forward. Every task depends on teamwork and timing. A grader breaks down and the schedule slips. A sudden storm can erase a day's work in hours, burying the cleared path under fresh drifts. There's no room for error. The supply window is short, and the mines are waiting. By the time the first truck is cleared to roll, what looks like a simple strip of ice is in fact the result of thousands of hours of human effort. An industrial ballet performed in the coldest, most unforgiving place in Canada. A loaded truck weighing 42 tons rolls out onto the ice. Its fate depends on a number, 107 centimeters. That's the minimum thickness demanded by the engineers, and it's not a suggestion. The difference between 106 and 107 can mean the difference between a safe crossing and a rig breaking through, swallowed by black water. The number isn't arbitrary. It comes from the brutal math of cubic stress. Every extra centimeter of ice multiplies the load it can bear, but the margin for error is razor thin. The paradox is, speed becomes the enemy. Most would think a faster truck is safer, but on ice, physics flips the script. When a heavy rig moves faster than 25 kilometers per hour, it starts to send waves rippling through the ice sheet. Resonance waves that can build, amplify, and shatter the surface beneath its own wheels. That's why the speed limit for a loaded truck is set at 25 kilometers per hour. Push it to 60, and the risk of triggering a resonance wave skyrockets. The ice flexes, then snaps. Engineers have learned to read the language of the lake, the subtle rise and fall under a passing truck, the way cracks radiate and heal. They calculate, they measure, but once the convoy is moving, the numbers become a matter of trust. The lead engineer, staring at the data, knows that a single mistake could mean disaster, not just for the driver, but for the entire supply chain north of the tree line. If the ice fails, it's not just a truck lost. It's a mine shutting down, a season's worth of fuel and explosives gone, hundreds of jobs on the line. Every decision weighs heavy. On this road, physics is not a theory, it's survival. Every supply run over the ice is a race against the clock and the ledger. The numbers behind the Tibet to Contwoito Winter Road are staggering. In a single short season, trucks haul up to 3.8 million ton kilometers of freight, fuel, explosives, machinery, the lifeblood of northern mines. There is no backup plan. If the road fails or closes early, every barrel and bolt must go by air, and that multiplies the cost by 10, sometimes 15 times over. A single load that costs $5,000 by truck can hit $75,000 by air. Multiply that by thousands of loads, and the difference is the line between a profitable mine and a shuttered camp. The engineer who gives the green light for that first truck is not just thinking about ice thickness or axle weights. He is weighing the fate of entire operations. If the ice road shuts down even a week early, tens of millions in ore and wages freeze in place. Mines run out of fuel, mills grind to a halt, and hundreds of workers face sudden layoffs. The road is more than a strip of frozen water. It is the only artery keeping the Norths alive each winter. Every trip across the ice is a gamble with consequences measured in jobs, dollars, and the survival of whole communities. The pressure on the men and women who keep the road open is relentless. For them, every season is a countdown, and every decision carries the weight of the North's future. The numbers tell a story that no optimism can erase. In the 1960s, the lakes north of Yellowknife froze deep and hard. Average maximum ice thickness reached 115 centimeters, enough to carry convoys for nearly 5 months each year. Today, that peak has fallen to 100 centimeters, and the season is shrinking fast. Freeze-up now comes 9 days later than it did half a century ago. Breakup arrives 12 days sooner. The result is a supply window cut down by 3 weeks, a loss of 21 days that no amount of extra effort can reclaim. A lead cryo-engineer stands over a chart, tracing the line that marks the 107-centimeter threshold, the bare minimum for a safe crossing with a loaded truck. In the 1960s, that bar was cleared in more than 80% of winters. Now, it is just 31%. Most years, the ice hovers below the line, forcing load restrictions or outright closures. The data is blunt. What was once a reliable highway is becoming a gamble, with the odds growing worse each season. The engineer points to the numbers. 115 centimeters, now 100. 150 open days, now 115. The margin for error is gone. Every year, the ice thins, the window narrows, and the stakes for the mines grow sharper. There is no debate in these figures, just the cold, measured decline of a road built on frozen water. The fight to keep the ice road alive has become a test of ingenuity as much as endurance. When the old numbers stopped working, when the ice fell short, when the season shrank, engineers turned to reinforcement. This is where the mat boost comes in. High-density polyethylene grids, filled with brine and laid over weak spots, raising the road's load-bearing strength by nearly 12%. Suddenly, trucks that would have been sidelined by thin ice can keep rolling. Their cargo measured in thousands of tons that would otherwise be stranded until spring. But reinforcement alone can't buy back lost weeks. So the next idea is almost unthinkable. A bridge, insulated and elevated, spanning the most unreliable stretches. The first feasibility studies suggest a hybrid corridor, part ice, part permanent structure, could stretch the supply window by 10 to 12 days. That's 10 more days for convoys, 10 more days for the North to breathe. The backbone of this new era is digital. More than 200 sensors, thermistors, acoustic crack detectors, GPS-linked radar sleds feed into a system that builds a digital twin of the ice. Every hour, the data is checked, predictions refined, routes adjusted. The cryo-engineer, once armed with only a tape and auger, now commands a network that can warn of thinning days before trouble appears. And still, the old ritual holds. When the first truck is cleared to roll, the driver steps out onto the ice, touches the surface, and waits for the signal. It's a moment of hope stitched to calculation, a reminder that, for all the sensors and science, the road's future is still written on the ice and in the nerve of those willing to cross it. Each winter, hundreds of millions in resources ride on a highway that vanishes with the thaw. As Arctic winters shorten by over 2 weeks since 1980, the ice grows thinner and the margin for error shrinks. The physics remain unforgiving, the stakes immense. Canada's frozen highway is both a marvel and a warning. Even the boldest engineering feats are hostage to a warming world. What survives is not guaranteed.